released a statement yesterday decrying what they called, quote, the sickening lies, end quote, being told about their son by the Trump administration. They said, we are heartbroken, but also very angry. The sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting. Alex is clearly not holding a gun when attacked by Trump's murdering and cowardly ICE thugs. He has his phone in his right hand and his empty left hand is raised above his head while trying to protect the woman that ICE just pushed down, all while being pepper sprayed, end quote. We've all seen the videos of the killings of both Alex Pretty and Renee Good. There are probably more videos to come of the killing of Alex Pretty. But what is even more alarming than the government lies is their persistence despite the evidence that I just showed you. And I'm going to put that on social media in moments from now. We're going to put that out there so that you can send it to anybody who doesn't agree with it. George Orwell warned us in the book 1984, quote, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command, end quote. That's what's happening right now. Joining me now, James Sample, professor of law at Hofstra University. Sample's work focuses on issues of constitutional law and democracy. James, thank you for being here again. I don't know what to say at this point, because this is the second time where we've gone through specific video with experts. And again, I am not a forensic expert. I can only show you what my eyes can see, but I share that with my viewers so that they can judge to say, this doesn't sort of comport with what the government is saying about that. And that's a fundamental problem when you start to distrust your own government.
It is a huge and fundamental problem. You know, in court, the government is often afforded what is known as a presumption of good faith, a presumption of regularity. There is no possible justification anymore in the current situation, and we have seen this over the span of months, right? The individuals who were allegedly Trende Aragua sent to CCOT, tortured, turns out we're not, right? And all throughout, Renee Good was not a domestic terrorist. The notion that Greg Bovino and Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller yesterday, in mere hours after this incident, had labeled this individual, Alex Pretty, as a domestic terrorist, Stephen Miller, as looking to massacre individuals for maximum damage, had brandishing of... Not one of those things is true. And so when you lose that presumption of good faith, you lose that presumption of regularity as the government of the United States. You know, late last night, Ali, a federal judge, a Trump appointee in Minnesota, a federal judge appointed by Donald Trump, issued an order saying that the government is ordered to not destroy evidence. That's like ordering somebody who's wearing a belt to put on suspenders.
When it happened, I thought to myself, is that unusual? That should have to happen?
It's an order to tell water to be wet. I mean, like it shouldn't have to happen.
So the brandishing the gun, that was why it was important to watch that video that we showed, because at no point do you see him touch the gun, let alone brandish it. But you talked about Bovino. He was on CNN just a little while ago. It's a long exchange that he has with my friend Dana Bash, but I want to play you one part of it when asked about this whole situation and the gun. Let's listen.
Peacefully protesting with firearms, absolutely. I've done that myself and fully support that, but not when you perpetrate violence, obstruct, delay, or obfuscate Border Patrol in the performance of their duties in an
There's no evidence that he was perpetrating violence. And there's no evidence, unless you have it, and we'd love to see it if there is, that he was intending to massacre law enforcement, other than the fact that he was there and he had a gun lawfully.
He meant to be there beforehand. Again, Dana, he came there beforehand.
How do you know that?
For a reason.
How do you know that?
Because he was there.
But all he was doing was filming and documenting it, which is legal. He was carrying a gun, which in Minneapolis
I didn't say it wasn't. And I didn't say it wasn't legal.
So then what did he do that was illegal?
Assault federal law enforcement when he does that. That's an active law enforcement crime
Where do you
scene
see in the video that he was
decided to enter into?
Where do you see in the video that he was assaulting law enforcement? Because from everything we have seen, law enforcement was assaulting him when he was there trying to help another individual.
I mean, we neither need a constitutional lawyer nor a forensic expert to go through that. That's crazy. I mean, when you talk about the government getting the presumption of good faith, at some point when you see all the evidence, what would be great to hear the government say is, wow, we've seen a lot more video now. It seems to be a different story than we released 12 seconds after the shooting yesterday.
Greg Bovino does not deserve a presumption of good faith. Greg Bovino doesn't deserve a presumption of sort of, of being neutral. At this point, Greg Bovino is fundamentally misleading the American people. This is an individual with immense power in a very concentrated circumstance, and he is directly and clearly lying to the American people. And with respect to, we've had many conversations over the years, and this country needs to have some serious conversations about the degree to which the Second Amendment is somehow simultaneously sacred enough that we have as a society come to tolerate regular school shootings of little kids.
Right.
And yet it is this, he was perpetrating violence by, in Bovino's words, being there.
And he meant to be there beforehand.
He meant to be there.
Which, by the way, observing and videotaping what ICE is doing is legal.
I'm sure he meant to be there. It would be very difficult to imagine a scenario where he did not mean to be there. I'll concede that point.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with meaning to be there.
Yeah.
That doesn't then lead to interested in perpetrating violence.
Yeah.
And so, the term, your point is absolutely right. We don't need constitutional analysis. What we need is a serious conversation about cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
Because to your Orwell point in the lead there, at this point, you cannot reasonably conclude that we are not being told to believe things that are different than what we can observe as objective fact.
And for, with Renee Good, it was whether the car was going toward the ICE officer, what she was trying to do. Christy Noem said it was a weapon she was using. Again, the video sort of debunked much of that. But again, this one does revolve around the gun. And as you said, it's legal to carry. He had a permit for it. What was he doing with the gun? Because the government first said he was brandishing the gun and, as you said, was going to perpetrate a massacre. So I want to play for you a little more of this exchange between Dana Bash and Greg Bovino. Let's listen to this.
Can you also just answer the question about the gun? Because, again, do you have any evidence that he was brandishing his weapon? Did he ever have his hand on the weapon?
Yeah, again, the officers on the ground, in that melee, we hear gun, gun, gun. So that gun, at some point, became visible to officers.
But could it have been because they had him on the ground and maybe his shirt came up and they saw that it was on him? That doesn't mean that he was.
And that is why we have an investigation, David.
Fine.
That is what we are investigating. You're not going to know that now, and I'm not going to know that.
I think an investigation is great, but the Homeland Security Secretary said he was brandishing a weapon. Do you have evidence that we haven't seen that he was brandishing a weapon?
He brought a semi-automatic weapon to a riot, assaulted federal officers, and at some point they saw that weapon. So I do believe the secretary is 100% spot on in what she said.
Seeing
Why would
a weapon.
you bring a weapon and assault a federal officer if you did not have intent to harm or delay or obstruct that federal officer with a weapon?
You keep saying that he assaulted a federal officer, but again, we have not seen evidence that happened.
For people who don't know, Greg Bovino is the guy running the CBP operations on the ground. He's the guy in Chicago. He likes to wear his uniform and his medals, and he seems to have some custom designed uniforms that he has. He said that's why we have an investigation, which Dana thought was a very reasonable thing to do. But we've already said that he brandished a weapon. You've already said he was going to massacre people. Well, why not wait for the investigation? And I'm saying this because this is how we all lose faith in the system. If there are any of my viewers who still have faith in the system, what do you do in a case like this where you need the government to say we will fully investigate this and come to a fair conclusion?
It's such an important question, Ali, and I don't have a good answer, but the answer that I would give is this. In another context, right, when we look to the court system, one of the most fundamental things that stands as a bulwark that favors the Constitution is the idea of a neutral arbiter, right? And so in the judicial context, we have recusal is required when the judge's impartiality, and the phrase is, might reasonably be questioned. It's a weird standard that combines the subjective and the objective reasonable standard. I would have turn that around as a question. Might it be reasonable to question the DHS's veracity in investigating itself,
Yeah.
absolutely it's reasonable to question.
There are so many ways to try and at least address this situation, notwithstanding the fact that it shouldn't have happened. It was entirely preventable. But we're not, the government is not taking any of those options. Great to see you again. Thank you for being with us. James Sample is a law professor at Hofstra University. All right, coming up, the Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen joins me next to discuss Senate